Cheating megastar pastor falls from grace. Carl Lentz, former pastor of New York City's mega church Hillsong, finally speaks out after being fired and over 3 years ago after pastoring for almost 10 years and losing one of the most prestigious positions. He was the pastor of one of the largest, most star-studded churches in New York City. In fact, some people say the crowds resemble those of a rock concert. Carl was also said to be the mentor of many high-profile celebrities, including Justin Bieber, who Carl was also named to be a prize mentor to. In fact, Justin Bieber actually lived at the LENTZ'S home for several months when he was going through some very trying times in his life. But here's the thing. Find out the secrets that led up to Carl Lentz being ousted out of one of the biggest mega churches in New York City.
Don't nobody go in the bathroom for about 45 minutes.
You done fucked up, you know that, don't you?
You got knocked the fuck out! What's happening?
I can't front. I found it kind of odd that Carl Lentz would finally speak out now after waiting over 3 years after being ousted from the mega church. I had my reluctancy, and here's why. I wonder if Carl was truly indeed being sincere and wanted to set the record straight and speak out, or was he simply promoting his new docuseries that's being featured real soon on FX. In the upcoming docuseries, Lentz speaks out for the first time in 3 years following being ousted from one of the most prestigious positions in New York once his cheating scandal was exposed. According to Lentz, I'm tired of putting the people that I love through so much pain. The decisions I've made, the pain that was caused, the betrayals involved, I take full responsibility for all of those. Yes, it's inevitable. Lentz must face his demons and heal. Otherwise, he's going to continue to hurt those close to him, even the ones that don't deserve to be hurt. Because here's the hard truth. Hurt people hurt people. However, healed people heal people. Now, the new docuseries is anxiously anticipated. It's supposed to be a banger for show, and the title is called The Secrets of Hillsong. Stacey Lee, the director of the new docuseries, she broke the ice after visiting with Carl and his wife in Sarasota, Florida. The most shocking, as Stacey explained, was seeing that Carl now works for an advertising agency. Now, she stated that Carl has never seen the world from the middle management perspective, and I think this is just the humbling experience that Carl needed. Well, I second that, because anybody that engages in prideful behavior, we all know pride comes before the fall, can all use a jolt of humility. During the interview for the docuseries, Lentz says the mounting pressures of his role as Hillsong ambassador contributed to his downfall. Lentz had gone from 2 services to 5 or 6 services per day. Now, I must declare that is a lot. Lentz quotes, "If you have issues in your life, influence and power and position will exasperate all of them." Lentz goes on. Lentz says he used ADHD medication to cope with the overwhelming pace of his life. This is attention deficit hyperactivity disorder medicine he was using. Now, Carl quotes, "Any sort of drug mixed with any sort of sexual addictions mixed with any sort of pressure is going to create a storm of problems." See, in hearing this, it's definitely good to hear him admit this and say this. However, hearing his last statement, I'm uncertain if Carl is really fishing for some support and making excuses to cover up some of the stuff that he did, or is he really sincere with his words? I don't know, but I guess time will surely tell. Stacey Lee admitted that Carl and his wife Laura, they were very reluctant to be a part of this docuseries, and they dragged their feet for over 2 years before finally deciding to be a part of it. Do you think money had anything to do with it? Because I sure do. According to Lee, it's been 2 years since they were fired. Rather than come out and give their perspective on every accusation, they disappeared. They figured out their own personal dynamics, their family, what was going to happen with them and their kids. Lee said before they started, she put the disclaimer down and made it totally clear to Carl and Laura that they're going to have to dig deep and face some of these issues head on, because this docuseries is not going to be a dip and dodge. It's going to be straight at it, attacking the actual events that actually occurred. So she warned them beforehand, before they committed to be a part of this docuseries, that this is not going to be a walk in the park. We want truth, and we're going to discuss some very difficult topics. And the main difficult topic that I didn't realize at the time, but after reading more, I realized that the main topic they want to face head on was Carl alleged sexually abusing the former nanny of their home.
Oh my
What you talking about, Willis?
God.
Are you telling me that Carl Lentz pulled an Arnold Schwarzenegger at the New York Hillsong Church? This is crazy. But then I found out it wasn't quite an Arnold Schwarzenegger, because although he had sexual relations with his nanny, he actually impregnated his nanny for years, and the mom didn't know that that was actually his father's son, that was the nanny's son. So Carl Lentz didn't do it to that degree. However, this does remind me of Arnold Schwarzenegger's issues with extramarital affairs. I guess the precursor that Lee gave leading up to these difficult questions, I guess it really worked, because once asked about the nanny situation, Carl Lentz responded, "I am responsible for allowing an inappropriate relationship to develop in my house with someone that worked for us. Any notion of abuse is categorically false. They were mutually adult decisions by two people who lied profusely, mainly to his wife." Wow. He goes on, "I'm responsible for that power dynamic, and I failed absolutely miserably." Now listen, Carl is talking that talk. This sounds like a man that's truly sorry and being totally accountable for his actions, but is he being sincere? Or is this lip service just trying to get that bread for this new docuseries? Now, what was most surprising to Lee about this entire ordeal when interviewing, Lentz and his family for this docuseries, she said, was how bold and how transparent Laura, the wife, was during this ordeal. Lee said she was simply expecting Laura to be very defensive and more than likely shut down after being betrayed in such a huge way as she was, but she didn't. She showed the strength of a champion. This is how Lee described Laura's behavior during the questioning. She said this is very raw material she's talking about, and it's not flattering or awesome to hear that your husband is having an affair with the whole world knowing about it, right? Lee says she thinks the loneliest person in the church is most often the pastor's wife. Wow. They see everything. They're at the heart of it, but they have so little of a platform to express themselves. She goes on, "I wanted to empower her side of the story, and for there to be a sense of strength in what she walked through and experienced." Lee says the docuseries shows why Carl was so beloved by the masses. It all came down to charisma. According to Lee, listening to Carl Lentz preach, you could be from any walk of life or from any spiritual set. But once you heard this man of God preaching, you immediately felt like y'all had some kind of human connection. He was charismatic, he was powerful, he was entertaining, and the list goes on and on. Lee explains his way of real talking church in a way that felt like he was talking to you specifically was very powerful. But it's like, how do you separate the performance from who you are the rest of the week? Was this just a facade? That's the questions at hand, and it looks like it truly was, because after over a 10-year run, this man was having sex with everybody, and he was doing so many illicit things, and there was so many cover-ups going on at the Hillsong Church. And wait until you hear all the secrets that became clear. Now, Lee admitted it wasn't easy, especially in the beginning with interviewing Carl Lentz, because he's a prestigious man. He was in the forefront of a very prestigious role, and he had media training. So he knows all the tricks of the trade. He knows how to protect himself from being able to answer questions that he don't want to answer. He knows how to walk over and ignore questions or answer partially and things like that. So Lee said that it was quite difficult initially. So initially she had to break through the innate automatic responses and defense mechanisms that Carl was presenting. But Carl revealed some jaw-dropping accounts revealing he was sexually assaulted as a child, but says he's been on a healing journey dealing with personal demons and trauma. Carl also talked about his affairs and the impacts that they had on his family. Unfortunately, we see this all too often. Perpetrators violating other innocent people, only to later find out that the perpetrators themselves were indeed perpetrated. Yes! Hurt people hurt people, but heal people, they heal people. Lee was also very transparent and seemingly honest on her accounts about this docuseries. She admitted that Carl appeared to be very sincere and transparent on all topics except for two. And wait till you hear the two topics. The first thing is, Carl says he did not like the title of celebrity pastor because it's overshadowing the other things he was doing. His legacy, what everyone knows him for now, is he's a celebrity pastor that fell from grace, and he doesn't like that. Well, I wouldn't like it either, but for whom much is given, much is required, and none of us escapes this life free without first accounting for all of the energy that we put into it. The principle of sow and reap, right? We must account for everything that we put into the world before we exit this world. All of our words, thoughts, and actions is called karma. We create our karma by what we think, how we feel, and how we respond to situations. This is what's happening to you, Carl Lentz, and unfortunately, none of us escapes free. And the second thing, Carl was very hesitant to make mention or even discuss any parts of his severed relationship with Justin Bieber. Anytime Justin Bieber's name is mentioned, although he tries, Carl Lentz cannot hide the friction that's on his face, the responses whenever Justin Bieber's name is simply mentioned. Lee shed some light on their relationship. She said that Carl Lentz and Justin Bieber had a very close relationship. And as I mentioned earlier, Justin Bieber stayed with the family for months when he was going through some devastating times. In fact, Justin Bieber said that he was a mentor. Justin Bieber and his wife frequented the church often, right? But it's clear that they even traveled the world together, but it's totally clear that the mention of Justin Bieber after this ordeal surely rubs Carl the wrong way. And I find this a bit peculiar because I've been covering the whole Diddy escapades with the whole freak-offs and the sexual assault allegations and so forth and so on. And Justin Bieber's name has come up several times in that, saying that he could potentially have been groomed by Diddy. His name also came up in the Epstein Island thing. Now, I love Justin Bieber, his talent, this and that, but I'm just calling it like I see it. And now you have this man, this Carl Lentz fella, who's also in his sexually inappropriate bag. And here's Justin Bieber's name again being associated with this man. So I'm just saying, something's going on, and there's some things that's not being said. But just like I'm doing, read between the lines. Soon after Lentz was fired after an over 10-year run, Justin Bieber and his wife, they unfollowed him on Instagram and immediately joined another church. Can you say disappointed? Can you say cut off completely? Lee also chimed in about Justin Bieber and Carl's relationship. She clearly says that Justin Bieber saw Carl Lentz as a father figure, and related that Justin didn't have many, or if any, father figures in his life at that time, basically trying to justify the reason why Justin Bieber thought and felt so highly about Carl Lentz. However, I come to my own conclusions. I draw my own conclusions. There's too many commonalities, too many dots that are connecting. But again, I adore Justin Bieber, and I think, regardless of what he's been into, I think that he was forced into that from a little kid, you know, and I pray and hope that Justin gets the help that he needs, if indeed he is struggling from issues and he continues to find himself being led and also mentored by other people with similar issues. Because if you ask me, from some of the things being alleged about Carl Lentz, that is very similar to things being alleged about Puff Daddy, about Diddy. So let's face it, and both of them were quote unquote mentors to Justin Bieber, and I'm sure there's some other people, and there's probably other commonalities between their behavior. So this is all I'm saying about connecting the dots. Lee gives more accounts to the Justin Bieber and Carl Lentz relationship. Lee says, hearing these revelations about Carl Lentz not only puts a blemish on Lentz's armor, but it also puts a blemish on Justin Bieber's credibility. And what's the worst part about all of this is this not the first time that these kind of things has happened at the Hillsong Church. So this is the question that it leaves me with. This is what it leaves me feeling in my gut. Is this an isolated incident, or is this a practice that's embedded in the DNA of the church, as we hear in so many other churches around the world? These aren't one-offs or incidents, individual incidents. This is people, individual people tapping in to those vibrations that's already embedded in the core, in the foundation of these churches, because God is not at the core, but God should be at the core. Our churches urgently need reform. In 1999, Frank Houston, the father of the founder of Hillsong Church, Brian Houston, admitted to sexually assaulting a child. Frank Houston, the father, was later found that he committed 9 sexual assault cases against 9 children, minors, little kids, 9 children. The father, he was never charged. They covered all of this up. But in 2004, he passed away. This is terrible. So here's the thing. We're starting to hear, because just like we heard Cat Williams on the Club Shay Shay interview that, you know, turned the whole world upside down, 2024 is the year of truth. Everything is being exposed. So we're just hearing all of these things being exposed about these churches, but it doesn't mean that this stuff hasn't been going on for decades and decades and decades. Not to mention what else is going on that hasn't come out yet. You must always know whatever's done in the dark will soon come to light. Nobody escapes life free. We all must account for all of our words, all of our thoughts, and all of our actions that we put into the universe. We got to account for all that energy. And this is just karma coming back to those that put it out. This is crazy. Now, this should also be a lesson to you. Sometimes the sins of the father may permeate for generations to come. Case in point, Bryant is now on the hot seat awaiting a trial in his hometown of Australia in a criminal case surrounding the alleged cover-up, concealment of his father's predatory behavior, all of those sexual assaults on those little kids. Now his father's crimes, even though his dad has already passed away, now his son has to pay the price for what his father did. His son had to know, and he covered it up. So I mean, I'm just here, I'm not judging, but maybe he deserves now. These devastating events are not isolated events. It's a practice, and I believe it's embedded, as I mentioned, in the DNA of the church. Churches desperately need to be reformed. According to Lee, there were people who were questioning things happening within the church, particularly among the leadership, and it didn't feel right. In the words of the late Maya Angelou, people will forget what you said. People will forget what you did, but they never forget the way you made them feel. Always trust your gut feeling. Always trust your intuition. We began to notice a pattern of people willing to look the other way because the voice of anybody who criticized was a voice that was going against God. Listen at the foundation that they established. Listen at the culture that they established here in the church. Turn the other way, look the other way, and if you dare to say something, we're going to make it that you're speaking against God. Because all of these heinous crimes, all of this abuse, all this pedophilia, we're proclaiming that that's of God. This is what I mean by this being the foundation of these churches. It's a practice. This is not one-offs. This is a practice. And it needs to stop. Our churches need to be reformed because it's at the expense of innocent people's lives. I believe the filmmaker has some interesting perspectives. Now, according to the filmmaker, what we valued so much in the conversations we had with Carl was being able to understand the mechanisms of church versus the business of church and where the lines begin to cross. He goes on, we have seen so many pastors fall from grace. Yes, we have, and the number continues to go higher and higher. One of the goals I have had going into this was to learn why this keeps happening. I can tell you why, and I continue to tell you why throughout this video. Because it is in the foundation of the church, and they're only bringing pastors in that's going to continue to perpetuate these sins, because any system is a reflection of its head. So they're bringing pastors in here that doesn't have God in them. So they're going to continue to permeate these sins and all of this unrighteous behavior within the church. They strongly need to be reformed, right? To actually speak to someone who had that full trajectory and speak about the things that were incredibly ugly, his own abuse accusations, and be able to understand the power mechanisms that are enabling these behaviors within a church environment. Well, I just told you, it's truly an environment. And here's the thing, the people in the church, here's the thing about energy. That's why I always say you got to protect your energy as if your life depends on it, because your life truly depends on it. Case in point, you may have many people innocent that were going to church strictly to grow their spirit and to hear the word of God. But because they committed to this church, this Hillsong church, so they're going into this church, and the nucleus, the core of this church is about pedophilia. It's about sexual sins. It's about unrighteousness, right? So even this person comes in with the right intent, they want to get fed the word of God. If they sit under that energy long enough, it's going to permeate their mind. They're going to eventually become part of the community, and they're going to start doing what the Hillsong Church was doing, turning a blind eye to what's going on, to these sins, these sexual sins by leadership. This is going to continue to happen unless there's an overhaul of the church's foundation. Our churches truly do need to be reformed. This is getting worse and worse and worse because church is supposed to be a refuge for the people, giving resources and coming a place where you can commune with like saints, right? It's supposed to be a place of elevation, a place of ascension, a place to take you higher. Well, looking at today's time with the churches, it's not a place that can take you higher. These churches are taking you lower, and they're digging a ditch and throwing you in the dirt. These churches don't care anything about you. They're using and abusing you. They're fleecing the flock for their money. They're not providing any resource. They're leading them the wrong way. And then at the end of the day, the people lose. The people lose. And enough is enough. Listen, I stand on the front lines with this. This is dear to my heart, but I'm not judging. I'm just communicating what I see. And I encourage you to do the same. You got to uphold your truth at all costs and 0% compromise at all costs. Listen, I don't care how someone else looks or what they may have. Nobody in all the world is greater than you. You are important. You are necessary, and you are sufficient. So never forget it. I appreciate you so much for watching. Please keep watching, because I'm going to keep bringing it. And you be great. And more importantly, be blessed.